This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Here they come. Ben Goessling, at Ben Goessling via X, covers the Minnesota Vikings for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com. Even though this doesn't begin for a couple of weeks, standard heating and air. Thank you. Thank you very much. Fun chatting with you during practice yesterday. The iron definitely was sharpening the iron with you and I yesterday.
Yeah, it was good.
How are things with Access Vikings and the newsletter and the walk to the regular season? And good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, things are good. The newsletter is coming out every Friday. We're doing a lot more video and podcast stuff. So it's kind of a multi-dimensional universe these days, I guess. So we're doing a lot of different things, which is fun. And, the newsletter this week, I'm going to dive into. We got a pretty big list of questions for the mailbag, which we probably won't get to all of those on the podcast. So I usually take one and do a little deeper dive on it. So I'm going to try to do that for this week's newsletter on Friday.
And Access Vikings, the podcast. That makes the 9 to noon chat today, as you will find out momentarily. But with Access Vikings, the podcast, like how frequently does it drop, as the kids say?
Yeah, so we typically we'll record tomorrow. So we'll have an episode tomorrow, and then the mailbag episode probably comes out Friday. And then we'll typically do a post-game podcast normally during the regular season. I don't know quite how that'll work this week when Emily
I'll hold the camera for Emily. Since by the way, Emily,
that might work out better.
Emily, wonderful hire by you guys. I mean, I've followed her stories and stuff like that. Yeah. But I'm just starting to get to know her, and we're joking around with each other at practice yesterday. She's got that quick wit and everything. So she does a really good job.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. She's been a great addition.
She's going to Nashville for the last preseason game, and Tottenham Hotspur for the 19th consecutive time. So I'd be a big fan too.
She's going to Nashville. Andrew is doing Tottenham Hotspur. I am doing Dublin, I believe, is how this all works out.
Of course you are.
Yes.
Yep, what's the publisher's name again?
Steve Grove.
As Steve Grove likes to say, some people have guidelines and some have rules.
Yeah, I might punch him in the face.
So that's how we go here. Isaiah, let's just get the controversial out of the way before we get to me. I'm going to do you a solid today, 9 to noon.
Okay.
To get you ready for later in the week. But first, Isaiah Rodgers and kick returns. All right?
Yep.
I think I'm the only one that really cares about this, because every time I say it, people laugh. But I am God's cartoon character, so maybe the bubble indeed is coming out of the left side of my mouth. This it's eating at me a bit. At one point, I know they said he'd return kicks.
Yeah.
And now he's never included in the laundry list of names of who may be doing it, 20 days from today, September 8th at Soldier Field. So, learned scribe.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I think... Matt Daniels talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that the discussion had to be, part of the discussion had to be, how much is he going to play on defense and how much would his role as a returner affect things? And I think that conversation seems to have moved towards, no, he's going to be, well, we've seen him. He's going to be a starting cornerback for this team. So I think there is probably a little bit of hesitation to use him in the return phases when you're using him defensively as well, just because you don't want to get him hurt.
Okay.
And I also wonder if they feel like there are, guys that are, he's done it, I think, but I don't know if it's like the thing he is most excited in the world about doing. So I think
Rodgers with kick returns?
Yeah, I think that's part of the conversation too.
Oh, wow. So you did a little work after I left.
Yeah.
Hey.
So, I think that is probably part of the discussion there. But yeah, overall, when you have somebody that's going to be as important on defense as I think he's going to be, because I do think he's going to be on the field just about every play. You don't see those guys exposed on special teams as often as somebody that might not be quite as big of a piece of the defense.
Brilliant and well researched.
Yeah.
Context strong. No hyperbolic nature to it.
No.
Okay. It's beautiful. That's great. Then why after they signed him on that Monday and they brought him in and called him the next Zach Bond, and part of it was going to be the kick returns, and now with the laundry list, the top one is Ty Felton, who returned 6 punts, oh, by the way, in college at Maryland in 2022.
Yeah.
2022. And Rodgers has like 67 returns over 4 years and one to the house.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you hit on 2 points there. Something I think has dramatically changed in the conversation. And what do you think of this? Maybe they're more dicey on Okudah than they're leading on, or we know. And then maybe Nudie guy and Zamiah Williams, the undrafted Utah guy, maybe they're like, well, I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the direction of the role as a corner for Rodgers certainly seems more substantive than I thought it was going to be when they signed him.
Yep.
And the thing that kind of made my ears perk up about that was back at the owners' meetings, Kevin O'Connell brought it up about how excited Brian Flores was about Isaiah Rodgers. He said he's kind of got that look in his eye about him. And when he gets the look in his eye, you kind of just let him go and do his thing because his instinct on these things has usually been pretty good. I think that has shifted the thinking with him a little bit in terms of how important he is to everything they want to do defensively. I don't think he's going to come off the field very often through the course of the season. And yeah, like you say, when the depth behind him and Byron Murphy is not completely proven. I mean, Jeff Okudah has talent, obviously the third pick in the draft, but you have to see, can he do the job regularly? Can Mekhi Blackmon do the job regularly? And if you don't feel good about the depth, that becomes a guy, Isaiah Rodgers becomes a guy that you're really worried about losing. So I think some of those things play into the discussion of how you use him in other phases beyond just the defense.
Do you in any way sense this kick and punt return, let's say Katsujammer is working on the head coach's last nerve?
I don't know what the word Katsujammer means, but in context,
something involving hangovers and like bad headaches and stuff like that.
Okay. Context would lead to something like that. Yeah, I think it's fair to say he's not enjoying the fact that he has to wake up every day and figure this out, because it is still very much up for grabs, 20 days from the season.
All of it.
Yeah, all of it. And kick return, punt return, I think some of the coverage units. It's not a great situation, and the head coach is not one who, he's not John Harbaugh. Let's put it that way. He's not Bill Belichick. His bones were not made in the special teams phase of the game. So
that's where Belichick started?
I think so, yeah.
I know Harbaugh did.
Yeah, I think Belichick way back when was
with the
there.
Browns.
Yeah, I think even, we're talking before that, as a position coach. Mm-hmm. Or, this may be even going back to college, but I think he had a special teams phase of things. It obviously ends up being Parcells' defensive coordinator and has the game plan that shuts down Thurman Thomas in the Super Bowl and, makes his way up from there. But
his first special teams assistant job, the 76 Lions.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then at the beginning of his Giants tenure, special teams defensive assistant.
That's a deep cut.
79.
Nice poll by you, too. But John Harbaugh, I mean, he was special teams immortality.
Right. I don't think that's Kevin O'Connell's, bread and butter, so to speak. So, yeah, I don't think it's something that he's probably terribly excited about having to worry about this close to the season.
Do you, again, something that, I guess I think about, and maybe you've looked it up or whatever, but it intrigues me, and it doesn't seem to intrigue a lot of other people, and that's fine. The Australian punter, Oscar Chapman.
Yeah.
From Adelaide in South Australia. Now, under the premise that he didn't play high school football.
Right.
All right. So he was in some weird football league that's not rugby in Australia, but not very long.
Yeah.
So given at Auburn over 5 years, he went 248-ish punts, not having any blocked. I don't think it's a leap to think this young man's never had a punt blocked in his life.
It's possible.
That's crazy. If you think never in his life. Now he's that the international player clip thing.
Yes.
I don't exactly know how that works on the roster when you get to the regular season.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody trying to run. He ain't heavy. He's my punter out of town. But nevertheless, Chapman was holding at the end of preseason games 1 and 2. We got the banana ball. What do you think?
I think it's possible that they bring him up. I mean, that practice squad spot, they get that for the entire season. So they get an extra spot to keep him on there as part of that international player pathway. But, teams, I think, can still sign him off like they would any other practice squad player to their active roster if they wanted to do that. So, it works basically like a practice squad spot would normally work. It's just that you don't have to sacrifice one of the spots for him. It's kind of a bonus thing. But yeah, as far as whether he's going to be the punter, I think that is still very much up for grabs. I think they have brought in competition for Ryan Wright before. I think the holding piece of this is a big question. He did hold at the end of that game. He had a couple of holds in a training camp practice that he didn't handle. I think Will Reichard missed a kick, and then it was Ryan Wright holding the rest of the way, if I recall right, through that sequence. But the holding question, and does everybody feel comfortable with it? Does Andrew DePaula feel comfortable? Does Will Reichard feel comfortable? Probably has a big say in what they do with the punter spot. But yeah, I think it's still something they're trying to figure out. I think there's still very much a chance that Oscar Chapman could be the punter, because I don't think they've ever looked at that as like, this is Ryan Wright's job forever, or, no NFL job is that way. But there are certain starters, you get my point. There are certain starters that are more solidified than others. I don't think he's necessarily been in that class. So I think it's still very possible there's a change there.
So a week from today, 1,000 and small change of players will hit the street.
Yep.
And then practice squads will be developed. So Nordo and I discussed this a little bit yesterday, where it's like the punt and or kick returners for the Minnesota Vikings probably currently are in the chat.
Yeah.
However, with all those players that are going to be available, like Cordero Patterson is a name that I believe is bouncing around now. Thing is with Cordero Patterson, and I'd have to look more closely at this, but this dynamic kick clipping penalty that is antithetical to dynamic, there's a different way to doing it than what made Cordero the best kick returner in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
It's different. I'm not sure he's completely embracing it,
Yeah.
and they're not going to use him at receiver, and they're not going to use him at running back.
Right.
So, like names, I'm not looking for names, but this time next week, there would have to be one corner running back or wide receiver nobody wants, but hey, he's pretty good returning punts and kicks. What do you think of that chance?
I think it's very possible that it goes that way. And the point you make about the change in the kickoff is really interesting, because Cordero Patterson has been like a 3-time All-Pro as a kick returner and has built a decade-long career, more than a decade at this point. He was 2013 draft. So an extensively long career, largely on that. But when the kick return has changed to the degree that it has, looking at what somebody did in the previous way that we kicked the ball off is not as transferable anymore to what you do now, because it's not just as much about straight line speed. There's going to be, a lot more lateral movement, a lot more setting up blocks, those kinds of things. And he's done that. I mean, he's done that behind the line of scrimmage as well. But do you look for somebody with a little bit different skill set? I think a running back. I mean, this play to me has often looked like, kind of a stretch run. So if you have somebody who is a good outside zone runner and can set up blocks and make reads off of where things are going and find space that way, that has seemed like a skill set that would make a lot of sense with this. So yes, if there's somebody out there that hits the waiver wire that they say, yeah, this could be a good fit, I think that's entirely possible they'd still do that.
How do we look at Daniel Jones being named the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts? And I'll just lay it out like this. It's like, whether it's battered animals or whatever, some type of refuge.
Yeah.
Well, Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center was a refuge for battered quarterbacks. We're going to bring you in. You're not going to play. No pressure on you. Go ahead and get that mind right and get all of the negatives and the verbal lashes that you've taken over the years. Get that out of your mind.
Yeah.
And then we're going to roll on together next year. And then if Daniel Jones happened to have the opinion of, well, you know what? If I stay a backup here, I might be branded as a backup like the rest of my life. So I'm going to find somewhere that not only can I compete to start, but I'm going to go ahead and win it.
Yeah.
And he did. He'll start for the Colts. What do you think of all that?
Yeah, that is an interesting situation, because I think a lot of his decision to go to Indianapolis versus stay here, which he had those choices, was based on where do I have a chance to play? And if you're signing a 1-year contract, he's still only 27, 28 years old. So his thought process has to be about where can I have the best chance to put up a good season and get myself the next multi-year contract that kind of sets up the last phase of my late 20s, my early 30s, kind of reboots my career, so to speak, like Sam Darnold did in a lot of ways. So I think that's a lot of the thinking for him of where he wanted to go, and that's what led him to Indianapolis. And the thing that's interesting to me there is Anthony Richardson has had this, well, it's mostly been down. He's been hurt, and then, the stuff last year when he taps out of the game, and, how is he picking up the offense? How much can they make things work with him as the quarterback? I mean, that seems like that ship has sailed now, and he's going to be somebody that probably has to go do the reboot thing. It's interesting because that's a guy I know the Vikings looked at in that draft, and I think they were intrigued with the raw skill set. They were intrigued with a lot of the things he could do, knowing he'd need development. And there were, I think, a lot of questions about, is this guy the type of player that can rally a team to his cause? Very much the way they feel very strongly about that with J.J. McCarthy. I think that was a question with Anthony Richardson. Is he going to be that type of a player? But he now is going to have to be one of those guys that needs kind of the reclamation project somewhere. So, I
bring him here for a month. The home for battered quarterbacks.
A little bit.
He'll start for the Saints next year.
Yeah, it's a weird fit just because his skill set is so different. But I wouldn't rule something like that out because it is sort of becoming that. It's like cue up the Sarah McLachlan music. It's the wounded pets, and you go out and get them and find them a good home after being here, and for the low price of a compensatory draft pick. But it's
and $250 a month on your credit card.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is players have looked at it and said, hey, this can be benefit. I mean, financially, it's worked. It got Daniel Jones a starting job. It got Sam Darnold a multi-year contract. There are satisfied customers for the Vikings quarterback rehabilitation program that could recommend it to the next guy who needs it. I don't know. Okay. It's interesting to see where that could go.
Well, and then there's Dobbs.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you, okay, so, I mean.
It's like 2 out of 3 dentists. He's the 3rd dentist.
Brilliant. Ben Goessling at Ben Goessling Star Tribune, at Ben Goessling via the X machine. Speaking of backup quarterbacks, any chance they give the 2 spot to Brosmer despite his lack of experience? That's a big talker in the neighborhood.
Yeah, it sure is. I think that's hard to imagine happening as good as he's looked, because then you'd have 2 quarterbacks who have not thrown a pass in an NFL game to this point. That'll change, of course, on September 8th for J.J. McCarthy. But I think they'd want somebody with more experience, which is why I've tended to think that Sam Howell probably keeps that job because he has started in the NFL before. That said, I'm going to be very interested to see what they do with Max Brosmer because he has looked good. He's looked good in practices. I thought he was up and down on Saturday until the 2-minute drill, and then he makes a couple of throws, including that dagger to Jayshon Jones. Like, okay, that's an NFL throw, and Kevin O'Connell said as much after the game.
The Miles Price throw to potentially tie it was an NFL throw.
Yeah. The one in the back of the end zone. Yes, it was
right at the end.
Yep, Price didn't. I think he had somebody grab in one hand. He got one hand up, couldn't get them both. But yes, that was an NFL throw as well. I think there were a number of other ones, and he's been decisive enough, and Kevin O'Connell has had enough good things to say about him publicly that I'm sure, given what Kevin O'Connell has done with quarterbacks, if Kevin O'Connell is saying, hey, I think this guy can play, there are teams that are taking notice of that. So the question becomes, can you get him through waivers and get him to the practice squad? That may be harder to do, and that's where I think the interesting piece here is they kind of have an extra roster spot. You have a lot of places you could spend this, but Jordan Addison is suspended for 3 weeks. So do they keep a 3rd quarterback on the active roster? Is it Max Brosmer because they don't want to expose him to waivers? I don't know that will be the way they go, but I think that discussion is going to be very much part of what they decide to do with him, knowing that he's looked good and they like him. I think they want him to be in the building. It's just, how do you do that in a way that keeps him yours and doesn't expose him to possibly somebody else poaching him?
The learned scribe mentions the name Jordan Addison. Maybe I'm wrong. Addison should play in this 3rd preseason game,
and I
right?
think he will.
Oh, you think he will?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday, and then I was going down the road of he should play because then he won't have any game action for like 5.5 weeks or something. And whether it's Brosmer or whomever, it makes sense for Addison to play.
Yeah.
So that gives that game a little pop.
It does. Yep. It adds a little bit of something to watch. But yes, if for no other reason than the football conditioning component of things, and they'll find things for him to do during those couple of weeks, the fact that he can be in the building, I think for 2 of the 3 weeks of the suspension, I believe they've changed that rule. So you can be around. I don't think you can practice, but I'm sure he can be working on his own to try to stay in football shape. But I don't think having one more opportunity to play is necessarily a bad thing in that sense. So, yes, I would expect we see him Friday night for at least a little while to get some work before that suspension starts.
Addison was fantastic during the Patriot joints. Naylor is hurt. Jefferson just returned. The Bears game is in 20 days. What do you think about all that as we approach Monday Night Football?
I think wide receiver depth is a question. I think the battles they have on those spots are going to be part of the final decision. I would not be surprised if they look for additional help somewhere else in the waiver wire pickup process. I mean, in these next few days, I think there's the possibility of adding some help at wide receiver, but they have a lot of things to figure out there. Special teams plays into this conversation too, because there are some kick return candidates in that group with Miles Price, with Lucky Jackson, Silas Bolden even, although he's kind of seems like he's fallen out of favor a little bit, hasn't been as involved, at least in the offense. But there is a lot to figure out there, and I think the wide receiver depth is becoming a pretty big question, especially knowing the way teams like to play Justin Jefferson and the fact that the Vikings want to have people that can take advantage of that.
He is our favorite BG. It's not Barry or Andy Gibb. It's Ben Goessling, who covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune. Where are the Minnesota Vikings weakest? Maybe at this stage, or casting the gaze the way of 2025 and the totality thereof. We'll get into that and more with Ben when 9 to noon continues on K.
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Yep. Where do you think? Where do you think the Vikings are weakest?
Well, we talked wide receiver depth in the last segment. I think right now, I mean, that's only for 3 weeks because then Jordan Addison comes back and it's a little bit better. But I do wonder about that spot. I wonder about corners a little in terms of depth, and also probably, they've bet big on Isaiah Rodgers here. So I think those would be the 2 spots. Wide receiver depth and corner depth are probably where I have the biggest questions.
When a fellow congregation member at your Minneapolis church, Hope, when they ask you about the Vikings and they ask you about cornerback depth,
which they do a lot.
You're in the confines of the sanctuary.
Yeah.
And when you talk about depth, do you ever say nudie?
I always love that one.
Or do you call him Dwight McGlothern?
The nudie thing probably requires a little bit of context. You have to probably have been paying attention to Vikings training camp and hearing people call him that to say, hey, what did you just say and what did you mean? Not every. It's always funny because people will sometimes ask me, so the Vikings have to be ramping up here pretty soon, right? And it's like, oh, no, they've been ramped up for a while. And it's like, yeah, oh, you've been working. Like, yeah, I've been working every day. Quite a bit. So
why do you need to talk down to them?
Well,
it's a blessing to have the job.
It is. And it's a job that you spend a lot of time at. So it's one of those things where, it's just when they're saying, hey, you must be getting back to work here pretty soon. Like, yeah, we're working full speed already, but the level to which people are invested in every detail of training camp probably varies. Your mileage may vary. So I think not everybody knows where the nickname Nudie comes from for Dwight McGlothern. I usually just stick with the name.
Yours truly is here to be we're here to prep you, kind of give you like a preseason version of something that's on charging at you that you know about but you're not thinking about, and that's going to take place after these two quickies. First, how much do you trust Jordan Love in Green Bay to win the division and maybe get to the Super Bowl?
I don't trust him a whole lot. I think he has shown moments of brilliance. He's shown a lot of Farbian tendencies, I guess, in terms of throwing off his back foot.
Sans the HO and just the F.
Yeah. Yes, there's been some of those things where he thinks he can make those types of plays and he gets himself in trouble for doing so. Yeah, I think that team is a big, big question mark in that division, and Jordan Love is a big part of the reason why.
Secondly, who is Movement Miyagi?
Yeah.
Who's Movement Miyagi? Because at the X Machine, at Ben Goessling, follow him if you are so inclined, as 9 to Noon does, you retweeted Movement Miyagi's book called Enhancing Skill in American Football. So what's this all about?
So Movement Miyagi is a guy named Sean Mishka who lives here and has trained NFL players, including a lot of Vikings players, for probably close to 2 decades. Antoine Winfield, Everson Griffin for a very long time, Anthony Barr, Xavier Rhodes, worked a little bit with a couple players rehabbing from pretty significant injuries, two of the more significant knee injuries in Vikings history. At least in the time that I've been on the beat. And, he's worked with a number of guys throughout those years. And a lot of his focus is basically saying, I wrote a couple of stories about him. That's how I got to know him. Some of his work with Everson, but his whole thesis is basically football is a chaotic sport. There's a lot of things that happen in a game that you can't necessarily predict, but practices happen in a way that are kind of detailed, and we want everything to work as though it's supposed to. Everything's supposed to be perfect, and we don't necessarily teach players the skills they need to deal with chaos of, hey, there's a defender coming from over here, and there's somebody in front of me, and what do I do in a split second? And so practice environments, he wants to be a little more dynamic. It's just, I think it's been an interesting thing, because I know for Everson Griffin and his transformation into an all-pro pass rusher, Sean was very involved. I mean, they worked together a lot in those years, and some of the instinctual play that Everson had, some of the quickness off the ball, he would attribute a lot of that to his work with Sean. So I've just been fascinated with his approach, because it's very different than the way you see a lot of teams conduct practice and think about practice. So gotten to know him a little bit, and his book is coming out on September 1st, I believe. With Tyler Yerby, a guy that he's worked with for a long time, and then Rob Gray, who has done a lot of baseball stuff, I think, with the Cubs, too. So just a very different way of thinking about sports, and I found it fascinating. And, wanted to plug the book, because I think it'll be fascinating to read, a fascinating read as it comes out here in a couple of weeks.
It matters to the scribe, so it matters to us. The book is called Enhancing Skill in American Football. Don't leave home without it. To close over the next 5-ish minutes with Ben Goessling, 9 to Noon is here to prepare you for the controversial mailbag and the 3-2. The controversial mailbag and the forthcoming Access Vikings podcast. Are you ready?
Let's go. Let's do it.
First, Tim Root. Why don't the Vikings sign Amari Cooper?
They might. I mean, I think the question with a lot of the wide receiver stuff is, how long do you need a solution? I mean, and how expensive of a solution do you want to find? This is the thing with Adam Thielen as well. Everybody says trade for Adam Thielen. All right, well, the cost of that is he has a $6 million base salary. Do you want to spend that much on somebody you may only use in that significant a role for a few weeks? Amari Cooper may be a different story, but I think, what is Amari Cooper looking for? What are the Vikings looking for? That has to be a fit.
It can be argued Adam Thielen right now is better than Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Amari's one of the great route running receivers in the history of the NFL. Alabama, Alabaster, Alabama go crazy. But Thielen's route running has been high end.
Yeah.
It's Adam, I think he had more than 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah, he was sneaky productive last year.
Yeah. Little Bryce took off, and Adam had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, he did. He's been
that would be sweet.
A reliable. Yeah, it would be
that
fun.
Would be sweet.
Especially if this is kind of coming towards the end for him to come back home.
Yeah. Well, damn the nostalgia.
He'd also be effective.
They have a need, and he's effective.
Yeah. That would also be fun.
Okay.
I don't see it, but it'd be fun.
Either do I. Eric Vikes fan 28. Is there a wide receiver acquisition on the way? He writes.
We got a lot of wide receiver questions.
I told you, I'm trying to get you ready here.
Yeah, I know. We did a lot of these last week too. Yes, I mean it's a hot topic. I think there is very possibly a wide receiver acquisition of some type. I don't know that will be like a splashy thing, or maybe it's just to sign a guy to add to the roster. But yeah, when you look at Naylor being hurt, Addison being suspended, they need depth. They need help at a lot of the returner spots. I think if you find somebody else that has played in a similar system, I would keep an eye on, your Rams types, your 49ers types, all of those places that play a very similar style of offense, similar route tree to what the Vikings do. If they find something they like there, I would not be surprised if they make a move one way or the other to add somebody.
As an aside to the Double P, the podcast prep, when he played at Arizona State, and definitely there, but maybe Wyoming, X-Valide, they called him X-Valide. Didn't the Vikings just sign?
Yes.
I have no idea. Zazavian, maybe? We'll find out today.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check the pronunciation guide there.
I was going to go with Xavian.
The Voxes for ASU and stuff, they just give up and just call him X-Valide.
Yeah,
that's probably
maybe that's what he wants.
Yeah.
Any idea how to pronounce Xazavian?
I think I would probably just go with X for now.
Right. And you don't have to deal with that Friday.
Yeah.
Emily does.
No. And that's the beauty of print.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Good luck, Emily. All right. So here we go. What do we got here? Jonas Mack wants to know. I like this one. Nobody ever asked this one. Jonas Mack wants to know, what do you think of Ivan Pace Jr. these days?
Yeah.
An old IP Jr. question as a stray out of nowhere.
Yeah. He's going to be a big piece of the defense again. I think he'll be in that spot next to Blake Cashman. Certainly will be a starter. It's established. But, yeah, they want to continue to use Pace and Cashman as guys that can kind of be a big part of the pressure package, the blitz packages, whenever they want to do it. They have so many different looks they'll throw at things. Pace will be involved there. I think the question with him is always dropping into coverage. Are they going to use him in those types of situations? They may not need to very much, but yeah, he's I think continuing to develop in that role, and he's probably heading into restricted free agency after this year, I would guess. So yeah, big year for him there as well. I'm trying to think. Undrafted free agents, that'd be 3 years. Yeah, I think he's a restricted free agent after this year. So there's some financial benefit for him to have a good year as well.
That's elite intel. Don't leave home without it. Grumpy Sicilian thinks early on they should run 35 plus times a game for like 160 a clip. It's a McCarthy and raising the kid quarterback thing.
Yeah.
Grumpy Sicilian. Do you envision that in the football forecast?
Grumpy Sicilian will definitely want to read the newsletter on Friday because I'm getting into more of this. I thought this question was pretty interesting, so I said, let's do a deeper dive on this. I did some research this morning.
That's cool.
They ran the ball.
And I got readers doing your work.
Yeah.
Emily's going to Nashville. I put you on the Isaiah Rodgers thing yesterday. This is fantastic.
It takes a village sometimes.
Some people have guidelines, some have rules. And we like that.
Yeah. So doing some research on it this morning without any help on my own, I found that they ran it, I think, 55 times more last year than they did in any year under Kevin O'Connell. So there already was an uptick in running the ball last year. They have not been particularly efficient, at least in terms of like ranking across the league in this over the last 3 years. And there's a few things that I think always mitigate this. You have the best receiver in the league as the highest paid player on your roster. You have a former quarterback as the head coach who likes to hunt explosive plays. And you have a general manager whose background is in analytics, which tells you pretty consistently that throwing the ball on an average play is more efficient than running it. So I don't think this is going to become a team near and dear to Mike Zimmer's heart forever. But I do think this year that when you have a young quarterback, having a running game that can control the clock, can make things a little simpler, can keep him out of 3rd and 8, I think it's going to be a bigger part of what they do than probably we've seen at any point. We saw it tick up last year. I think it did, adding Jordan Mason, adding the things they've done to the offensive line, and just the way they want to play, especially for a quarterback that has been in run-heavy offenses before. I don't think it's going to be 35 times a game, but I think you could see more of like a 55-45, 54-46 kind of split this year, which would be another uptick. And, we'll see how that goes. It's going to evolve over J.J. McCarthy's career. It's going to evolve as he evolves. But I do think it's going to be a bigger part of the offense than probably we've seen under Kevin O'Connell, probably really since those first couple of years with Mike Zimmer, pre-Kirk Cousins, when they were winning divisions by running the ball quite a bit.
Beefeaters unite. In closing, please stop smiling. It's radio; they can't see you, but no, please stop smiling. Don't look at me if it means you're not going to smile. Okay,
all right.
So I'm going to try to make. I bet you I can make you smile here. Ready? Ben just said that Kevin O'Connell likes to hunt explosive plays. He likes to hunt explosive plays in the high red on weighty downs.
I always love that one.
That's a very.
There it is.
That's you hit a lot of the Kevin O'Connell phrases in that particular sense. You activated a lot of the Kevin O'Connell phrases,
and there is that.
And he was
beautiful
intentional
smile.
about it.
He was intentional.
You can see that beautiful smile via Access Vikings. That's the podcast with Ben, Emily, and Andrew. Don't forget the newsletter each and every Friday. Learn more at Ben Goessling via X. See you out there later.
All right, sounds good.
Ben Goessling covers the Minnesota Vikings for the Star Tribune. News du Nord is around the corner. After that, 3 guests we don't frequently have, 9 to noon, and we're going to call it the Under the Radar Hour. We think you'll like it, beginning about 15 minutes from now.
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Now.
Welcome back. It's News du Nord, and News du Nord is always brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Enjoying your time, feeling the felt, whether it's poker, blackjack, table games. They got stuff going on every day, all year long, having sips at chips. And, of course, live racing is in play right now. So for the live racing calendar and all event details, really, go to CanterburyPark.com. Twins enjoyed that 8-1 win on Sunday, enjoyed a day off yesterday, and now the Athletics are in town. It'll be Joe Ryan on the bump. Maybe if you're into prize picks, maybe you're into, this might be an opportunity here. You get to watch Joe Ryan, you get to watch your best pitcher and some of your best players.
You must be on fire on prize picks right now. That's
I've been feeling a little bit.
You seeing it clearly?
Yeah, I did.
You're playing fast, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I heard a roundabout reference during Fan Line this last Saturday. This is the second time this week you've mentioned it. About the only bad prize picks related tout you've given, I actually gave to you for a live read last week, Corbin Carroll.
Corbin Carroll.
Who had 1 walk for 3 points and that was it.
Oh.
So that doesn't stack up to the way Prize Picks is working for you now.
Well, it's embarrassing and stupid. I hit a 6-pack from the Saturday Vikes-Patriots game.
Very sweet.
It was, but I thought when I was talking about it on Fanline that I took the L because of Xavier Scott's rushing yards. And I was watching into the second half. I stopped looking at the app, and I'm like, come on, man. Like, I just need a little more run. Can we
You
get a little
wanted
more
an
run?
over?
I wanted more, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did get more.
Yeah.
I thought it was like 29 or it was like 25. So I actually, I hit it for a couple of bucks. So yeah. No, we're on one right now. But that's what Prize Picks is about, is my sometimes good, mostly awful fantasy opinions. You hit the big ones to offset all those little ones that you take L's on along the way.
Well, you know what you're doing. You're making money with your mind.
Trying to.
Antithetical to pulling levers or levers.
Yes.
You pull levers or levers, you go broke. And then they promote to you, well, you only put a single cent in this one.
Right.
Oh, yeah, nobody puts a single cent.
No, that's not how it
They
works.
put a lot of pennies in it, and that's why if you look at, like, the Las Vegas, there's a Las Vegas report that comes out weekly or monthly. Where did Las Vegas make its most money in the wagering world? Is it Pie Gal? Is it roulette?
No.
Sports or horse racing?
No.
Penny slots?
By a mile.
By a mile.
Not even close.
So we're going to end this conversation right now, and here's why. Because I don't believe in jinxes. However, talking about it a lot means yesterday may have been the wedding. I don't want today to be the funeral.
Yeah.
I always love that one.
Well, we'll see how the Twins handle business at Target Field this evening against the Athletics. It's kind of a slow news day for the most part. We've already mentioned a couple of these things, but I will hit on this. Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones being named the starter of the Indianapolis Colts. Our intrepid reporter friend Ben Goessling in studio. We talked a bit about it with him, but also Alec Lewis chiming in. I saw this via X. Based on Daniel Jones's playing time down in Indy, the Minnesota Vikings might be eligible for a compensation pick. They or a compensatory pick. They might get like a fourth out of it if Jones takes that starting job by the reins and runs with it. Now, Anthony Richardson, I think part of this, was it a dislocated finger? He hurt his finger in that preseason game, so I don't know how much of it is injury versus Jones just outperforming him.
There's something that's always wrong with that young man.
Yeah, it's sad, man. And the raw talent. I'm glad you guys were talking about that, you and Goessling, because that was into the draft, kind of some ideas, some rumors percolating around, would we really move up? And then we were kind of shocked by, wow, Anthony Richardson goes fourth to the Colts, and maybe there were conversations or intel that there were discussions being had in draft night, and just the raw talent of Anthony Richardson. It ain't working out, man. It ain't working out right now. Can't stay healthy. And now Daniel Jones, his 1 year, $14 million deal, has him the starter for the Indianapolis Colts. So as we look to the Under the Radar Hour, I will leave you with that, PA. That's News to Nord, brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com for all the details and information there. Feeling the felt. We got horses in the mix. We got live shows and music. And we got it all down in Shakopee, CanterburyPark.com.
All right, the Under the Radar Hour for 9 to noon commences around the corner, and a quite familiar voice to devotees to 9 to noon will be the first to join us. Then we'll go into the local leader of the J.J. McCarthy fan club, and then we will head into somebody who does a podcast that I've joined several times. I happen to like the podcast and like the individual, who also is an author. Who knew? All of that under the radar and under the cover of darkness this Talker Tuesday at FM 100.3 KFAN.
Our partner, Eli Lilly and Company, just announced Duets for Type 2 Diabetes, a campaign celebrating real patient stories of support, because managing Type 2 diabetes doesn't have to be a solo act. Share your story at mounjaro.com/duets. Mounjaro tirzepatide is an injectable prescription medicine that is used along with diet and exercise to improve blood sugar, glucose, in adults with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Mounjaro is not for use in children. Don't take Mounjaro if you're allergic to it, or if you or someone in your family had medullary thyroid cancer or multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2. Stop and call your doctor right away if you have an allergic reaction, a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or vision changes. Serious side effects may include inflamed pancreas and gallbladder problems. Taking Mounjaro with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. To Tell your doctor if you're nursing, pregnant, plan to be, or taking birth control pills, and before scheduled procedures with anesthesia. Side effects include nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting, which can cause dehydration and may cause kidney problems. Once weekly Mounjaro is available by prescription only in 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5, and 15 milligram per 0.5 milliliter injection. Call 1-800-LILY-RX, 800-545-5979, or visit mounjaro.lilly.com for the Mounjaro indication and safety summary with warnings. Talk to your doctor for more information about Mounjaro. Mounjaro and its delivery device base are registered trademarks, owned or licensed by Eli Lilly and Company, its subsidiaries or affiliates.